The gas pipe steel cover has been broken into two halves, but Pakistan will still choose to repair it. It only needs to be simply filled with welding rods. After being cut by their washing machine, the scrap steel cover can't see any traces. How did they do it? And this kind of parts with high air tightness requirements obviously do not meet the requirements of direct welding precision. In order to prevent errors in the splicing data, the master must first grind the rough end face, but it can provide welding grooves for the follow-up and keep the horizontality during splicing. The key to whether it can be used is that the slightest deviation will affect the operation of the engine. In order to ensure that the welding is perfect, the master must first use bolts to fix the cardboard on the steel cover so that the whole distance of the circle can be reproduced. Then, according to the cardboard mold just now, a piece of steel plate is punched. Only in this way can the steel cover be fixed with bolts. After quickly drilling 4 holes on the steel plate, it can be connected with bolts. The 2 sections of the steel cover are temporarily assembled into a hole so that there will be no mistakes in welding. The welding requirements for gas steel cover are very high. Although ordinary cold hanba cannot meet the standards, in order to avoid gas flooding inside hanba, the master must first heat the steel rod to 400 degrees. Under the premise of temperature support, welding can achieve the best effect. However, because the repair shop no longer has welding tools, when using ordinary welding rods for surfacing, it is necessary to use Yang Yiquei's auxiliary heating. Although the effect is not as good as the hot welding of welding tools, it is also the best way for their repair shop. With the fixation of the steel plates on both sides, even if the previously polished groove is relatively wide, hanba's heating, the current strength must meet the requirements. However, because the rough hanba is higher than the steel plane, Fu must first pre-process it with a grinder to avoid the height difference between the two being too large, which affects the subsequent washing bed processing. Although the hanba on the back will not affect the use, but considering the aesthetics of the entire cylinder head, it also needs to be polished with an angle grinder. After the surface of the hanba is gradually flattened, it is believed that the high temperature of the hanji will definitely cause deformation. In order to restore the original flatness of the steel plane, their imported washing bed equipment must be used. The entire steel plane is precisely cleaned and processed. This not only removes the traces of the hanji, but also restores the fit with the engine steel body. After 10 times of cleaning, the master also needs to use steel paper for quality inspection. The gaps in one place can be completely consistent. Only then can the steel cover be used normally again. Considering that the valve seat of the valve still needs to be polished and adjusted, the valve guide should be installed on the steel cover. In this way, when it is polished by the bench drill, it can be accurately in the center of the hole. Only in this way can the fit with the valve be improved. After the master polished almost all the exhaust valves, the fracture was just in the center of the hole. The welding could not control the accuracy well. As for the gambling part, it still needs to be polished by a straight grinder to restore the original space of the steel cover. Then the splicing of the steel cover is over. What do you think of the skills of the Pakistani master?